is a Zionist, Jaguar?
I didn't interject. I asked him a question.
You guys understand what we're dealing with? Tell me, and then
Do you understand what we're dealing with? I didn't interject. I asked him a question. Yo, Roger, I hate you. JB, I hate you too. All right? You guys are the worst.
Hold on.
Both of y'all.
Listen, Tony, Anthony, let me play with my food for a little while, because he's a fucking idiot. Maybe he'll learn something. So, Jack, you say, you know the delineation between a Jew and a Zionist, and you.
No, I'm asking if you was cool with it. I was asking if you was cool with it.
Hold on, can you let me finish?
No, I'm just correcting you.
Okay, thank you for correcting me, because you don't know what you're talking about. But then you made a statement.
No, I was correcting you based on what you said. I said I was saying, are you cool with it?
Can I finish?
My bad. I'm sorry.
You said what's going on over in Israel. You support what's going on in Israel. Then I said to you, what's going on over in Israel? You're like, I don't know. I don't watch the news. So why would you make a statement like that?
Because I be on Clubhouse. I be on Clubhouse and I be seeing the rooms, and there's rooms saying that like they wilding over there.
Mm-hmm. So you believe everything you hear on Clubhouse?
You can enlighten me, bro. Since you're the Jew, put me on.
I'm not the only Jew. There's plenty of Jews on stage.
Cool, put me on. I'm a master student, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm moving you down until you learn to shut the fuck up. And if you guys want to bring him back up so El Normo could teach him, because El Normo used to be a high school teacher, maybe he can. So please bring this moron back up.
I promise you, sir, you don't want to spar with El Normo. I've been there, and I say that out of love, El Normo. Okay.
All right, Jaguar, I'm just telling you now, whatever outcome happens, I'm not responsible. Norm, are you there?
I mean, the worst he could do is shoot me, and I'm Tupac on this bitch here.
All right, Tupac. Norm is Biggie. Go ahead.
Wait, hold on.
I'm a Tupac, man. I'm sorry.
Hold on 1 second. Which part of Tupac? Or like when he was like taking ballet lessons? Like you gotta define your.
Nah, I tend to get shot out of rooms, so I mean that's the worst you could do. I mean, it's a digital space. I ain't gonna die. I'll just respawn in another room.
Tupac.
I was just asking the question. I don't know what this
is 2 flashlights. Like you're a fucking security guard, top flight security guard. Like shut the fuck up and go put your flashlight in the corner.
Wait,
like, what the fuck is
I
going
think
on?
there's some spit on your phone, gang. You need to calm down.
Hold on, Jaguar. Let me introduce you to El Normo. El Normo, this is Jaguar. He has a second grade education.
Nah, I'm a college graduate, bro. I'm a veteran too.
This is why we should defund the public education system.
Oh, I thought you was gonna say defund the military. I was like, hell no, I checked everything. Crazy.
Don't worry, there's another check waiting for you. It's called welfare.
I tried, bro.
Norm, are you there, Norm?
Yeah.
How you doing, my friend?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good. So you get to deal with Jaguar and this other moron, Doug. Good luck. We're here to
very entertaining room, I've got to say. So, I heard some mention of the Federal Reserve, and somebody thought that somebody Jewish on the Federal Reserve. So, do you want to revise that statement, Thug, or do you want to concede that you don't know what you're talking about?
Leave that man alone. Y'all beating up. The worst is dead.
Leave Brittany alone. Leave Brittany.
I want to go to the excerpt.
No, I asked you a question. I don't want you to read excerpts. Just want to ask you what I asked you. Do you understand anything? Oh, you didn't hear
I'm
that.
trying to give you some tips on how to handle these niggas, man.
Okay, so
Thug,
Thug, did you say that Jews owned the Federal Reserve?
Yes, sir. The Jewish family that created the Federal Reserve.
Okay. No, sir, I didn't ask you who created it. Okay, do you speak English, sir? Is that your first language? Would you like me to ask you in a different language?
You want to get around that fact. Go ahead.
No, it was a yes or no question. It was a yes or no question. So I'll ask you again. Did you say that Jews owned the Federal Reserve?
Yes, sir, I said that.
Okay. Do you understand that nobody owns the Federal Reserve? Did you not know that?
That's not true.
It's 100% true. So, would you like me to...
If it's not owned by anyone, like you said, who created it?
Okay, different question. Different question. Not what you said or maintained or said was.
Bro, y'all boys don't like being humble, bro. Answer that man question, bro.
So why have you ever taken the time to look into it?
He's on the phone, Norm. You want to go back to Jaguar? This scholar?
Jaguar.
So why don't
Do you have a country?
I was born in the Bronx.
Okay, so do you have a country?
Yeah, America.
Excellent. Do you have a right to be in your country?
Fuck yeah.
Why do you have a right to be in your country?
Because I fought for it and I was born here.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, so do Spanish people have a right to their country?
I think everybody got a right to their country.
Nice. So Jews have a right to our country, right?
I don't think y'all ever had a country, and I think.
Okay, no, I didn't.
I don't know about any of that shit.
Wait. We have a country. The name of the country is Israel.
Shit.
Why? So why does everybody have a right to a country except for Jews? Shia, indeed. I'm not sure why you said Shia. So what's the answer to the question?
I mean,
I think you just shit.
y'all was, what's that? It was like in the 40s?
Sir, we can talk about when every country in the United Nations was formed, because most of them right now in the United Nations were formed in the mid 20th century, around the 1940s or 50s. Every country, Greece, Pakistan, Turkey, modern Germany for that matter. You may not know that. Even the country. Yes, let's go back to Israel. Do Jews have a right to our country?
I don't know if y'all ever had one, respectfully.
Well, we have one. It's called the State of Israel. This is my second time telling you that. Now that you know that we have one.
You told me
Hang on. Wait. Okay, so let me try it a different way. Do you know what Israel is?
I think it's like, from what I heard, the whole text told me it means like,
I don't know
the father and child,
you know,
shit like that.
Wait,
Israel.
do you okay. You don't know
If
what
it
Israel
ain't,
is.
then you know you're Jewish. Tell me.
Okay, so you don't know what Israel is. You know what Spain is. And you know what France is.
Yeah.
You know what it is. Okay, but you never bothered to look up what Israel is, and yet you have an opinion about it. Why is that?
I mean,
How can you never look it up?
I looked at some shit on Facebook.
Is it a country?
They said that.
Is it a country? Do you know if it's a country or not?
I know Palestine is a country.
Well, who's the president of Palestine?
You tell me, bro.
You don't know. So do you know?
I don't know. Do they have a president or a prime minister? It's
You
different
don't
over here.
even know. Do they have either? Does Palestine have either? Does Gaza have a
I
president?
mean, I'm a master's student. I'm willing to sit at the feet of anybody that knows better than me. And for some reason, y'all
Do you have opinions about?
I obviously don't know. You know what I'm saying? I just want to know I was talking to JB. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why he ran off.
A whole story. I don't want to hear a whole story.
No,
Yeah,
he's
I'm telling the story. It's an explanation.
I'm asking you.
Jaguar.
I think
Let me just say this. I've been here the whole time listening to you, knowing that you're an idiot. I feel bad for you. I feel bad for you.
Hold on. No. Let's give this a different type of energy here. This is the best and brightest that they send from the mysterious land of Palestine. Jaguar, thank you for gracing the stage with all your
I'm from the Bronx, Kingsbridge. You heard? Fordham Road.
I don't. Was that English? Jesus fucking Christ.
I'll translate. I'll translate. He says from Cambridge, Fordham Road. Because I understand you.
Home of the Braves. You heard?
What year did you drop out of high school? Or did you make it to high
I
school?
graduated from Fordham University 2009, sir.
I find that very hard
On the
to
Air
believe.
Force's dime.
Okay. I find that very hard to believe. So, and you never bothered to check if Israel is a country?
I mean, it's not on
Yes
the
or no?
top of my list.
Yeah,
I'm just
yes or
asking
no?
y'all.
Wait.
Like that.
Hang on.
You got mojo. I thought I was gonna get a lesson.
These are yes
You out here in the back.
These are yes or no questions. Have you ever heard of Israel?
Yeah.
Did you know that it was a country, or did you not know that?
Like I said, I think they made like a state or an area in like the 40s. I don't
So
know
you don't
about
know.
it being a country.
Let me try it this way. Do you know what a country is?
Yeah.
You do. Okay, what are some of the features of a country? Tell us.
They got
Right.
cities and borders and
Yes.
rulers and shit, presidents,
Rulers.
prime ministers and shit like that.
Yes, and money. And
Yeah,
many of them
currency and all
are,
that shit. Yeah.
yeah, many of them are United. So does Israel have all those things?
I don't know. I've never been there. You?
Oh, no, not asking if you've been there. Does Israel have a prime minister?
Oh, Benji, right?
So you do know. So you're just lying. So are you lying and also a bad person, or are you just
Nah,
lying?
you gotta understand though. Like countries and states
Yes.
are a little bit different.
No, actually they're not. So if you have a prime minister, do things countries or states have prime ministers?
I don't know. It's a weird
You
place.
don't know.
It's weird. It's like it's in a place.
No, it's not that
It's a
weird.
place in a place, kind
No,
of.
hang on, it's not a place in a place. It's just a country. And I'm a little bit. I think you're playing now. I think you're pretending not to know what Israel is.
No, bro,
I'm gonna ask you
bro.
again.
I'm humble.
Okay,
I'm
so-
humble.
so- Yeah.
What's his name?
No,
said?
you're not really humble. You're
Anthony.
lying right now because you knew the name of the prime minister. So you knew that it was.
He knows.
I be on Facebook, bro. I'm seeing his face a lot now. Maybe he's in my timeline.
So you knew that it had
He
a
knows
prime
more.
minister.
He knows more than
Conversation
what
got
I
totally away from the Federal Reserve. Notice what they're talking about now. They don't want to deal with that Federal
Well,
Yo,
Reserve.
I just bully. I'm trying to show you something, Jay.
The guy who did.
Hold on, everybody, hold. Sorry, no. Let me just say this. See, Doug, man, you need to put that bottle down, bro. Because while you were in the audience, your boy here is the one that brought up Israel. He did.
Nah,
Deal with the program, bro.
we're not talking about Israel, JB. We talking about.
He brought Jack, but Jack.
No, I didn't, sir. I didn't do that. No, he did not bring that up. The other L nigga came on asking me questions.
Hold on a second. First off, I'm just gonna say this because I'm gonna get going anyway. Mr. Nathan Vile, shut the fuck up. I don't like you. You're lucky I let you on my stage. And if you don't like what I gotta say, to leave quality buttons on the top right. Respect my space. You can go gaslight another room. But I'm gonna pass this over to the other mods. Guys, have a good night. Be well. And good luck with this idiot making Mr. Vile.
Jaguar knows a lot more than what he's saying.
Well, I know nothing. I see nothing. I know nothing.
I read.
Hold on. So, if he's trolling, he's not even doing that well.
Shit.
I mean, he had y'all hooked for quite a bit.
He definitely had talk.
No. I think what you're missing is that all people that simp for the imaginary state of Palestine, they end up in the same place because they're all fucking morons. So it doesn't matter if they're educated or uneducated.
Imaginary state of Palestine. Did y'all hear that?
Yes, the imaginary state of Palestine. Yeah, correct.
Sovereign place, though. By
No,
Jordan.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's actually no, it's not. No, it's not. No, listen, the land of Oz and Narnia are more rooted in reality than the state of Palestine.
Well, many people in the United Nations would disagree with that. That is a fact.
No,
I mean, you can consider it what you want.
Okay.
And there are people that don't consider it
Okay, hang on a second.
sovereign place.
Hang on a
There are
second.
people that
Hang on a second. Let's see if you're right. So, where is Gaza? Do you have any notion? Sir, there's a war there. You probably heard about it. Do you know where Gaza is?
yes,
Do you know? Okay, where?
yeah,
Sorry, say again. Where is it?
it's right next to Israel.
Okay. What are the borders of Gaza, if you know?
So borders is right next to Israel, and it's
What
right
are
north
the
of-
borders of? What? Just say
I
what the
just
borders
said
are.
Israel.
Okay, Israel, you're very good. Is there a president or prime minister of Gaza?
Currently, no. It's a
No,
war-torn
was there
country.
ever? Wait a second. Was there ever? Hang on. Was there ever a president or prime minister of Gaza? If so, what was their name?
Definition, I do not believe so.
So they never had a prime minister or president. Wait. So is Gaza part of Palestine?
Many people believe it is. Yes.
Okay, and those people, are you one of those people?
I do believe it is, yes.
Okay, so if it's part of Palestine that it has a president or a prime minister or a king or a governor or what? Tell us. Who's in charge?
Currently, it's a war-torn country.
Oh, no, I didn't. If it's a country. Wait. If it's a country, then who's in charge of it?
Many people consider, sovereign land.
No, I'm asking you.
You can say the same thing in Afghanistan.
No. I'm saying, who's in charge of it?
Afghanistan country right now. I'm going to go.
Say again? Wait. No, don't change the subject. Does it have a leader? Does it have? I asked you. Okay, if you don't know, just say you don't know. Does it have a president or a prime minister?
Out of those two, no, they do not right now. No.
What does it have?
I don't know.
What?
Right now?
What does it ever have?
Mixture of people. Right now, it's a war-torn country.
It's not a country. Sir. Does it have a currency? Does it have a
Currently,
leader?
actually, I don't know. Currently, I do not know.
You don't know.
Right now, multiple leaders. Right.
Well, I can't hear you. You have to trouble with your phone. Hang on. Calm down. No president, no prime minister, no leader, no currency. So what would you call Gaza?
It's a piece of...
Yes, it's a piece of land. Huh?
It's a piece of land that's getting their ass kicked by Israel.
That's correct.
Torture people. And I'm the...
Yeah. So it's a piece of land. It's not a country. Huh?
It's a sovereign place.
What is sovereign about? Wait, so who owns it
Just
then?
because...
Wait. You said it's sovereign. Well, how can it be sovereign if there's no sovereign? Who's in charge? How can it be sovereign if nobody's in charge?
It's challenging to have a place in charge where people won't have access to food. That's
Wait. Calm down. It can't be a country. Now you're talking food. Well, obviously there's food because everybody would be dead if there was no food. So that's sort of a stupid thing. So I beg your pardon.
We've had this conversation before, and
Well, you're trying to change the conversation. Just say, let's stay with, listen, continue to interrupt. Hang on. I asked you if it had a president, and you said you don't know. Hang on. Calm down. So it's got no currency and no leader, and you said it was sovereign, but you don't know who's in charge. So when you say sovereign, does that mean that somebody owns it? Or that it is independent? Has anyone ever been in charge of Gaza that you know of? Ever? In its history?
They have not had a formal president or prime minister to those definitions. But go back to would you consider
has it ever had a leader of any
Hold on, Norm.
Yeah.
Let me tap in for a second because he's asking a question about Afghanistan, and so I would consider Afghanistan a country. They actually have a prime minister. Do you know what the prime minister's name is in Afghanistan?
Currently, I don't. But last I heard, they don't really have an official prime minister.
Well, hold on. So the Taliban is in power, and they have a prime minister named Hassan Akhund, and then they also have a supreme leader of the Taliban whose name is Hibatullah Akhundzadeh. I may have mispronounced it, but please forgive me. But yes, they do have a government. It's not a government that I would like or that I would want to live under. But yes, to answer your question, they do have a government. Now back to the debate with you and Norm. Can you describe to Norm who has ever been the leader of quote-unquote
Gaza? Or either one, or both.
I honestly can't. No, I can't. But what I can say is, majority of the United Nations have stated that it is the sovereign land.
It's a land, not a country. You say it's a land and not a country. So who owns it? So who is the sovereign of this sovereign land?
You have to ask the United Nations. Going back to my
original point, I'm asking you. No, wait, I'm asking you. You're the one. Why would I ask the United Nations? Hang on a second. How is it sovereign if there's no sovereign?
Going back to my original statement.
No, we're not going back to your original statement. Hang on.
Let him go. But David, can you please address his question? Because I think what he's having trouble with. Hold on. I will moderate Norm. But why didn't somebody move? Did he move on his own?
I didn't move.
Oh, he got scared. He got scared because he was going to get asked a question. Jesus, it always happens. I was was just going to simply ask him, if he could tell me what he means by the word sovereign, because he said it was a sovereign country, and based on your questioning, Norm, it doesn't sound like he knew what the word sovereign. Anyways, why do they always leave when they get asked a question?
I agree. Questions make their brains explode. So for those of you listening, just so this isn't a total loss, Gaza has never been an independent anything for most of its life. It was a part of Egypt until 1967, when Egypt attacked Israel. Egypt lost that engagement, and it lost the Sinai as well. Israel traded the Sinai back to Egypt in 1978 at the Camp David Peace Accord with Jimmy Carter. People won the Nobel Prize for that one. And then, when Israel gave the Sinai back, Egypt didn't want Gaza. So guess what it became a part of? Israel. There was never anything called a Palestinian there, and Israel in 2005 withdrew from Gaza and let them have elections. And they had two parties there, the Palestinian, there's some others, but the main ones are Palestinian Authority and Hamas. And the Palestinian Authority, which was elected in the West Bank, which we call Judea and Samaria, was defeated there, so a terror organization called Hamas, which promised to commit genocide on Israel, was elected as the legitimate government, quote-unquote, a terror organization of Gaza. It never had any real link to so-called Palestine. It was never part of the banking system, never had a currency, and never had anything but a terror organization in charge. That terror organization is Hamas. And that, up until now, it's been sort of floating there, not a part of Israel, not a part of Egypt, and run by a terror organization called Hamas. So it's very puzzling what Gaza is right now, which is why President Donald John Trump, as JB likes to call him, said he's just going to take it, because in truth, nobody owns it. It is not sovereign. There are some areas there that were once refugee camps that developed into cities, quite luxurious ones, in fact, with swimming pools and BMW dealerships and water parks and beach clubs. In fact, it became kind of wealthy on aid because the world kept pouring refugee aid into Gaza. Now, 80% of the people in Gaza are so-called refugees. By the way, they get your tax money and mine, a lot of it. Joe Biden gave them $250 million just before they attacked on October 7th. If 80% of the people are refugees, then by definition, they're not from there, and they don't own Gaza. The remainder 20% are a bunch of clans, which have never been organized into a formal government. So what Gaza is actually very much up in the air right now. I'll just leave it there.
Well, hold on. I want to address the chat, because sometimes we need to do that. Arthur K. says, this room is called Healthy Debates, but there hasn't been any healthy discourse. Arguing instead of finding common ground to agree on to progress the conversation. So I would agree to a certain point here, Arthur. The problem is that when Norm was trying to establish a common ground to just figure out if the person that he was arguing with even understood what a country was, to understand if Israel is a country and what are the characteristics that make up a country, and the interlocutor was not a good faith interlocutor, and that person didn't know or pretended not to know the answer to any of those questions. So there was no way of building a conversation with somebody that you can't build on facts, and so that's why we're here.
Yeah, he was asked if he knew what Israel was, and he said, I know. And then he was asked who's in charge of Israel, and then he claimed not to know.
He was using your own ignorance against you, bro.
It's not my ignorance.
When I say ignorance, I mean your ego. And
he acted like
he knew a lot more than.
Norm, you're gonna have to forgive this Tony kid. He's never had conversations with adults.
Thank you. Adult.
But he was afraid to say what he knew because he was too filled with hate against Jews to acknowledge the Jewish homeland?
He knows that you think he doesn't know anything.
No, I don't think anything. We just have a conversation. He doesn't know what I think.
No, the way he was questioning, anybody that's smart understands what you was trying to do, and he was playing with you.
What was I trying to do?
He was playing with you.
What was I trying to do?
He was playing. Hold on. He was playing with you. How it
Hold on. Is playing with you similar to playing with you?
Since I was personally addressed, may I respond to Mr. Mojo comment? My first time in this room, I apologize. My comment sparked some kind of energy in the chat.
Go ahead, Go ahead, speak.
Okay. All right. Just a second. Yeah, the energy is intense in this room, and being present for it is difficult when you try to approach from pure stance of neutrality. And the polarization between the exchanges here and the behavior that has been accommodating the characters on this stage has been hypocritical. As in, I see the intelligent here punching down on those who do not. All I see is just question baiting and ridiculing to insult the other person's intelligence. So if I could just bring to awareness of the accountability of, like, hey, how are we behaving? Is it according to, is it in coherence with who we are as people? So I identify from a non-dualistic perspective. I operate from oneness, and I'm the hippie-dippy dude that, right. So anyway, I see things from as a whole, and what I see is just combative communication. What would be healthy is non-combative communication, so that we can progress to growth, so we can agree and meet on common ground. Therefore, no one's talking down and punching down to anybody.
So Arthur, let me ask you a question.
And what resident?
Hold on. I'm going to ask you a question. I don't know about that.
I park my tank.
Okay, good. You can park it wherever you'd like. Free parking. I just want to ask a question here. Were you here when Thug was here saying that when he brought up the Federal Reserve and he was using it as a Trojan horse in his conversation about his hatred of Jews? Were you here for that part of the conversation? Oh, where'd he go? Oh, every time you ask them a question, they just leave. It's amazing.
You're asking good faith questions.
Sure they are.
Oh, wait, hold on. Tommy, why don't you tell me what's bad faith about this? The person that okay, we'll back this up. When Thug identified as saying, hey, we should talk about the Jews, and then he said, let's talk about the Federal Reserve, and he went into this entire anti-Semitic thing, this trope about how the Jews control the money and the Jews are controlling the U.S. and they do it vis-a-vis the Federal Reserve. All I did was ask him a couple of questions about the Federal Reserve.
Instead of having a real debate.
Hold on. I will give you ample time to talk. But anyone that knows me on this app knows that I would rather you speak more than I do. I just want to say this. I want to give some context to everyone that might be listening for the first time, and then you can go ahead and tell me where you think I'm wrong. Thug made all these comments and established himself as being knowledgeable about the creation of the Federal Reserve. In fact, he indicated that he had taught from a book, and then when I asked him what the name of the book was, he didn't know the name of the book. Then when somebody mentioned the name of the book, he said, oh yeah, that one. So then he goes and he gets a picture, and he PTRs a picture of the book, and again asserts that he's an expert in it. He's telling us who he believes created the Federal Reserve, and he made the comment the Jews own the Federal Reserve. Nobody owns the Federal Reserve. If you guys are interested, we can talk about how the Federal Reserve was created, how it's structured, and you know that there is no ownership of it. There's a governance of it, and there's a couple of ways in which it's governed. right? And we could talk about all that, but we couldn't talk about that with Doug because he didn't know what he was talking about. And when he said that it was not only owned, which the first flaw, said it was owned, said it was created by Jews, second lie, and then third, he said it's operated by Jews, which, by the way, the chair, when I asked him what the chair's name was, he didn't even know who the chair was. So he knew absolutely nothing about a topic that he brought up. All I can say is that if I'm going to bring up baking, I'm going to understand the ingredients. I'm not going to bring up a topic that I don't know the answers to or can have an intelligent conversation about. He brought it up, and then when he got embarrassed by it, then people that hate Jews decided to jump in on his side to say a bunch of other nonsensical shit, and you guys have been getting educated ever since. Now tell.
Okay. So do you know how to debate?
Never lost one, but go ahead.
Cool. So you know when you debate, you don't just ask a bunch of questions. You actually respond with a fact, correct? Not ask a question.
Are you telling me how a debate is conducted?
Yeah, I am telling you.
Got it. Okay. Good. Okay. Do you want to speak to anything I say?
I am telling you how you was not in good faith. What you try to do is you try to attack not somebody's intelligence by asking a bunch of questions instead of going back and forth with a conversation, being a debate. Mean as, and he says that it was controlled. You say no, it is not controlled. No, what you do is you ask a ton of other questions instead of giving your point on what it is.
Well,
you don't have good faith. You don't have good faith debatable skills. All you do is talk over, and then you try to embarrass them.
How about this? I am going to move myself down. Anthony, you can bring me back up. I will surrender my mod badge, and you can pick from any of the individuals that have a mod badge. You want to debate me on the Federal Reserve? Let's me and you have a conversation, and we'll let a moderator.
I'm telling you what you're doing wrong.
No, I'm telling you. Listen, if you want to have a fucking debate right here, Junior, we can fucking have it. But if you're going to pussy out and just say that people don't know how to debate, then just say you're too pussy to have a debate. Hold on. I'm gonna move myself down. And we'll watch how this little chicken shit backs out of this. Watch this.
I ain't asked about the Federal Reserve, so drop yourself in.
Roger without a mob badge is still Roger. Like, stop.
Hold on. I'm moving myself down. Hold on.
That don't mean nothing though.
Like I said, not good faith. He's proving my point. The more he has.
All right, go ahead. Hold on. Who's gonna moderate this? Can we? Who's gonna moderate this?
I'm not debating.
Oh, you're not gonna debate me? Oh, I thought you said I didn't have debate skills.
You have debate skills. You have really bad social skills also.
Interesting. Hold on.
You're not the mod. No, you gotta wait. No, wait. You're not the mod. I was talking first.
He got that mind badge back.
Hey, listen, I didn't even ask for it, but all I gotta say is, look, if anybody wants to debate me, we can do it anywhere, anytime when it comes to the Federal Reserve. And all I could say is, this little fella named Tony thought that he was wise, said that I don't know how to debate. Listen, well, let's find that out. How about this? How about you pick the structure, and you pick out of all of these moderators who you want to moderate the debate.
I come here for your entertainment. I don't give a fuck about debating with you.
All right, well, I'm not here to entertain you. So fucking, how about that? When you grow up and you want to have a debate in a fucking house called Healthy Debates, come back. But if all you want to do is just fucking sit here and talk your shit, you go somewhere else with that shit. Listen, you guys brought up the Federal Reserve. I did. Hold on. Did I bring up the Federal Reserve? Was I the one that brought it up? Anybody?
Hey, but Tony never said he wanted to debate the Federal Reserve. He was just telling you how.
What does he want to debate? What is that little uneducated candy ass want to debate me?
He was maybe about how to debate. That's what he was telling the Jews about disingenuous.
I told him he can pick any format he wants.
I'm gonna move my.
I told him he could pick the debate format. And he decided he didn't want to do it. I can't help it if you guys are afraid to interlock with me in a debate. I can't help that. I guess maybe some of you have been around long enough to know that when it comes to the Federal Reserve, you're not going to win a debate against me. I think most of you know that. Tony's just new. He just got his first. He got off restriction with his cell phone. His parents gave him his cell phone back. He downloaded Clubhouse. Now he wants to come in here and act like an.
There's another white man shooter out there.
Hold on. Remy said Roger IQ is low. Let's bring up high IQ Remy. Let's see where high IQ Remy is. Let's see.
Roger's relatives are out there shooting up firefighters, out there trying to do their job up in Idaho. 11 of them have been.
That's scary. I can't believe that person's still alive. Like, I would have thought that person would have died of diabetes already. Jesus. What's going on?
You know, meanwhile, her relatives are, robbing Foot Locker.
I mean,
Well, I just think it's rich, though, that people said that, that like, I talk down to people because I have a mod badge and I'm a bully. I moved myself down. I said, let's have a debate, and the person said they didn't want to have a debate. Okay, end of the discussion. Just acknowledge that you don't know shit about what you were talking about. Corny ass little bitches. Who's friends with these people? How they even find this fucking room? I thought this room was for.
Don't blame me, I was clipped.
How did you get clipped, and then the anti-Semites get to stay on the app? Can someone explain that?
Thug Sissy should have been clipped a long time ago. It's very crazy how people don't recognize the things that he says in violation of the terms and conditions of the app. But hey, let's let Thug Sissy continue to be Thug Sissy.
Well, if you don't know what the state of Israel is, and you don't know what the Federal Reserve is, but you have opinions about it, and those opinions are somehow derogatory towards Jews, maybe you're an anti-Semite. It's just a thought. I mean, if you don't know anything except for the fact that you hate the Jews, maybe you should own it. Why be afraid to own it? Just admit it. You hate them, you don't know why, you don't know how, you don't know who, but you hate them. Just say that. At least then you're standing, as JB would say, 10 toes down, trying to bullshit about stuff you know nothing about. Not hard.
Could you say standing 10 toes down again, please?
Why ain't you standing 10 toes down? Trying to imitate the only guy on the app that doesn't have an accent besides me. I don't know, the whole thing is kind of funny. I'm just surprised at people's ignorance. I thought they would have more self-respect than to put themselves out there naked, unarmed with any information or knowledge, and just expect to get through a conversation with somebody who knows even a little bit about any topic. Beginning with the Federal.
Hey, Tony, just real quick, before you go, Tony, I wanted to ask you a question. Tony, do you believe that culture is innate or is culture learned? Did you previously state that culture was innate?
Bro, I'm talking to normal. You trying to switch my topic. I'm not even about to go back forth with you.
All right, Tony, I got another thing just to tell you in brief. I do have a degree in anthropology, and epigenetics has nothing to do with anthropology. Epigenetics is the term for what you were speculating about. The trauma could be passed down from generation to generation through DNA, and the bottom line is it cannot. It's an interesting theory. Now, people can be traumatized, and their trauma can affect the way they parent, so that their kids are going to have other kinds of issues as a result of being the child of a traumatized parent. But you cannot pass trauma down through DNA. Put another way, hang on, I'll end it with one sentence and then you go, it's okay. Trauma does not, no, it's quite all right. Trauma does not affect your DNA. There is no proof.
I was wrong I was wrong saying the word DNA. I was saying genetic. That's all.
Well, genetics, it's the same thing. There's no more right.
I put the two definitions in the chat. So that's a minute ago. But
Definitions of what?
because it's the same. The difference between DNA and genetic.
Not really a difference.
It's called Norma. You say let me talk right. I was saying DNA trauma earlier. I meant to say genetic trauma. For example, my grandpa can have a lot of fear, attitudes, and everything else like that. Different traits to his personality, different things like that. Everyone knows when you heard the term, you act just like your dad, you act just like your mom, different things like that.
That's learned behavior, not genetically transmitted.
God, no,
Okay.
Can I finish?
This is not a lecture, Tony.
This is not a healthy debate.
Yeah, it's healthy. Just take a nice breath. So whether you, by the way, there's no distinction between.
You're not having a healthy debate right now.
Hang on. There's no difference between genetics and DNA. Trauma does not affect your genetics or your DNA, and you can't pass. Hang on, and you can't pass it down from generation to generation.
Tony, shut up and learn something, you nappy-headed hooligan. This is the problem with black people. Y'all don't fucking learn. Y'all do not fucking learn. Okay, you know what? I'm not doing this with you, Tony. I'm not doing it. Okay? Be quiet. Allow Norm to finish. Be quiet. Thank you. Go ahead, Norm.
I was just going to say, I mean, it's nice that he has these ideas, but they have nothing to do with reality. There are some theories that trauma can affect your genes, but it's never been established as true. It's not a real scientific theory. It's just an idea. I just want to put it a different way. No, you're gonna go after me. So there is no scientific evidence, none, zero, that trauma affects your DNA or your genetics, as you put it, and there's no distinction there. And you can't pass it down genetically from generation to generation. Now go ahead, please do respond to what I said. Go ahead.
And please don't cut me off again. Thank you. Because we said healthy debates. You're white. You never.
No more meta, Tony.
You guys supposed to be pleasure.
Tony. Nobody wants to hear the meta. Just go ahead and talk about epigenetics. Go ahead. I'm not going to be pleasurable. That's for you to do. Now go ahead and address the topic and stop whining and complaining.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. Listen, everyone stay on mute. Tony's gonna get 2 minutes uninterrupted, and I'll tell you this, if he doesn't get to the fucking answering the question within the first minute of it, I'm just gonna remove him from the room. He will have 2 minutes uninterrupted. Nobody will interrupt, no matter what he says, no matter how fucking stupid it is. But if he gets a minute deep into this without answering the question, I'm just gonna remove him and he'll never come back.
He didn't ask me a question, but what I was saying was that trauma can be passed down. For an example, if your grandparents or whatever have like certain traits, goofy, funny, has an attitude, different things like that, usually be passed down to your pops, but it can skip him and go to you, and it can say you act just like your grandpa, different things like that, and whatever traumas that your past history or anything like that,
30 seconds.
And the fear and different things that they could be passed on to you. That was all I was saying.
I don't know if you heard a word that I said. Yes, I do have a degree in anthropology. The field that you're addressing is called epigenetics. Again, I don't know if you heard that. So I just want to make it clear to you, and I guess you're not going to hear this, which is maybe, I don't know, I mean, maybe you can't learn stuff. So I'll make it really clear. There is no evidence, none, that trauma affects your DNA or your genes. Did you hear that loud and clear?
Norm, I think it's deeper than that. I'm sorry, just really quick. Norm, I think it's deeper than that. I actually think that the argument that trauma affects your DNA is a white supremacist talking point. I think white supremacists propagate that idea. And ironically enough, you have a number of people in certain communities who unintentionally don't realize how insulting it is for to push forward this idea. There's a book called The Bell Curve, all right, and it has a very racist point of view, but it's the same talking point that Tony is trying to push. And he doesn't see how ironic it is that he's standing arm in arm with white supremacists.
If I could add something, and I just want to talk from a scientific point of view, and I don't give a shit about, the politics that go along with it or whatever. But Norm, you're saying that there have been some studies, and trauma can affect, how your genes are expressed when you called it right, epigenetics. And I'm sure you know more than me because you said you majored in anthropology. But there have been some studies with scientific evidence, and one was done on Holocaust survivors in 2016.
So can you walk me through the metabolic process? Can you walk me through the metabolic process
She wasn't
which
done, though,
genetic mutation actually occurs?
Adams, she wasn't done. Let her finish and then respond to it.
Yeah, I'm not fucking arguing with anybody, okay? I'm just having a conversation. And I already submitted that I'm sure Norm knows more since he has an anthropology degree. But I was able to find scientific evidence, which is what I thought we were discussing, and it's based on the methylation patterns, suggesting that the trauma has impacted gene expression across generations. There's several studies. I can put them in the chat if anybody gives a shit.
So now we've made a distinction. It can affect gene expression, but it doesn't change your genes. In other words, a accident or a trauma can bring out a certain part of your personality, but it can't change your genes, and it can't be inherited, and it can't be passed from generation to generation. So that's the distinction. I am familiar with the study that you mentioned, and it is called epigenetics. So the idea, for example, that the trauma would be inherited by the child of a Holocaust survivor, no, it wouldn't be, genetically or scientifically or biologically or medically. But yes, a parent who has been traumatized will have a certain kind of behavior, and that behavior, not the genes, will affect the child. And by the way, those things are addressable. You can fix that with therapy. There's no change to the genes. As you said, expression, meaning some part of your personality that was otherwise not prominent, could emerge as a result of trauma. Now, by the way, it could be a heroic response, or it could be a hurt response, because people respond to the same stimuli in different ways. That has to do with genetics. But no, a trauma will not change your DNA or your genes.
I was saying earlier,
Hold on, sorry. Tony, hold on. I want to extend a warm, healthy debates welcome to Daki Tari, who seems to disagree with Norm, but as of yet has been a little too afraid, a little too timid to get up here on the stage. I want to welcome this person up here to see what they have to say. The chat warriors have a lot to say, but let's see if we can actually get somebody on the stage here. Let's see. Everyone root for Daki Tari. We're gonna see if this person can come up. Everyone encourage in the chat Daki Tari to take the stage. Oh, not yet. Rob Gulate is afraid to get on the stage. I heard Rob Gulate is a failed rapper from Houston. I wonder if he wants to get on the stage and argue.
I mean, the data contradicts what Tony is saying. The gene expression from the trauma that you feel proves that it's not being passed down.
Yeah. They're interesting studies about trauma as well, because a lot of people have been traumatized, and the more we study people, the more, in fact, we find how universal trauma is. So I want to say that again. The phenomenon of trauma is fairly universal, whether you've lived through a war as people in Israel and people in Gaza are now, or whether you experience some sort of a horror, like being the victim of a crime that's a trauma, or whether you've experienced some sort of child abuse, that's particularly traumatizing. But there are ways of fixing that. And that has to do with therapy and attention. There's a great book by perhaps the leading authority on trauma, Bessel van der Kolk. He's a Dutch guy, which is why his name sounds funny like that. And he has a book. He's the leading, I think, academician and therapist of trauma. And the book, and I recommend it to anybody here. And remember, since trauma is universal, maybe everybody wants to have a look at this book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And you can get tons of YouTubes and podcasts featuring Bessel van der Kolk as well. He's out of Boston. Yes?
Author's name again, accepts them.
Say it again. Was that Liz? Say it again.
Was it Dr. Cock? Can you say that again with that accent?
Did you just say Dr. Cock? I could swear you said Dr. Bessel van der Kolk.
But, but also, I wasn't just only talking about trauma, I was also talking about traits and habits and different things. When I say habits, I mean that like interests and different things like that. I think sometimes when I speak, you're trying to, like, if it ain't exactly what it is, like the way that Miss Madison had described was everything what I was saying or trying to say. And then you described exactly what I was saying a long time ago in the conversation, not now, but earlier. But like I said, interest in different things that can be passed down. That's the reason why they have the term of saying, like, you act like your grandfather, you act like your dad, different things like that. They never even met that person, or their grandfather died a long time ago. And they say that and stuff like that. I only noticed because I had to take a fucking class twice. And
what was the class?
It was an anthropology class.
What was it called?
Anthropology. If I'm mistaken. It was a minute ago. It was a class I had.
You're not telling the truth right now. It wasn't just called anthropology.
I like you said, remember I just said, are you trying to get exactly what it is? I'm
trying to get to the truth of the matter because people have been bullshitting on this stage for hours. But say you are.
I know what you're saying. I'm saying I'm not speaking for nobody else. Like I was saying, but what you're doing with me is like, if it ain't exactly what it is, then I'm wrong. But you understand the concept of what I'm saying. I don't know none of this. I didn't know none of this before I went to that class. I understand about the first beginning of the class was all about culture and how the culture norms and different things like that and habits and everything. And then we talked about genetic trauma, different things like that. Everything I'm just saying, everything you were saying, I couldn't get the words out. Everything you were saying is what I was trying to say. And then, like you said, with war and everything else like that, but also habits and different things like that. You can pick up if you're in that environment and different things like that due to the fact that the past, whatever you genetically was, like your grandfather was probably doing and stuff like that.
Bro, so this is like, they're injecting CRT into the anthropology course. I mean, none of what you said is backed up by real science. You know, it just sounds like CRT. And just because you took a course on it doesn't mean that the professor or the teacher wasn't throwing a bunch of BS in there to fulfill some sort of like CRT goal of the university.
Tony knows about as much about this as fucking the other guy knew about the fucking Federal Reserve.
But I think he's coming with humility and a genuine interest and a desire to learn, and I just want to...
yeah, I'm literally just having like a conversation with him, exactly.
I want to support you for that, and I appreciate the way you responded, and I can understand that these are complicated concepts, and sometimes they're hard to express, and between, I guess it was Madison and I, we got around to it, and I think we all learned something here. Hopefully it's useful. So the rare clubhouse moment in which we learned something.
And but then this dude next to me talking about CRTs adding critical race theory into it. It's like, bro, Stop ignorant race into every This is not even about a race conversation right now. Just like
Actually, that's exactly how we got here, Tony. That's where you took us here. The title of the room was quite literally about white fatigue. We were talking about race, and then you brought that up. So I don't think that he's off base at all. I think you just forgot how you brought us to this conversation.
Okay, my turn. No, my turn. No, so if trauma cannot, if what you're saying is true, two examples. Do you agree that human babies, are scared of snakes? And second, why dogs love humans?
God?
Yeah, dogs. Why dogs? Like baby dogs, they love human. Even though,
Baby dogs will love anybody that feeds them. That's not epigenetics. And epigenetics is different from breeding and evolution. And what was the first part of the question?
No, baby dogs.
Why are people afraid of snakes?
Yeah.
Babies are not inherently afraid of anything, but there are certain disgust reflexes. So people will quickly learn to recoil from disgusting things. That is, things that smell bad, that we've learned that smell bad, or or things that they've seen others recoil from. That's learned behavior. There are some inherent reflexes. Like, one of the few things that a baby is born with is the ability to feed at the mother's nipple. They actually are born baby humans are born with less natural inclinations than almost any other animal. They're completely dependent on their parent for a lot of years, more than any other living creature. Like, you could say as much as 10 years, and some people it's 18 years. But almost nothing else is passed genetically. It's learned behavior. Personality traits, it's questionable whether they're inherited, but the thing that we're talking about here specifically is whether trauma can change your genes. And the answer is that it can't. There isn't any evidence. But it can change your behavior, of course, and your behavior can affect those around you. So if, for example, there's somebody in your family who's an alcoholic, and they begin to disappear, or lose their jobs, or go into rages, or just do very irrational things, commit crimes because they're drunk, that behavior, that alcoholism disease can affect everybody around them. That's a behavioral effect, not a genetic effect.
Well, what about spanning generations? Like, that's just within a generation.
That's right.
Can an experience in a previous generation or 3 generations ago be carried on by cultural forms, cultural rules?
Yes. By behavior, yes. So whether it's the family of somebody who endured slavery, that can change the behavior of the enslaved person, which will in turn affect the behavior of the children of the enslaved person, which will in turn affect the behavior of the grandchild or great-grandchild. But it's going to lessen generation by generation, and the effects can be ameliorated. Same thing with the Holocaust. And if somebody is the victim of, say, child abuse, that's going to affect the person's behavior and the person's mental state, and it'll affect how they parent. So the kid will have certain responses to that. But 3 generations down, it's going to be largely gone. And there'll be enough other outside positive influences to ameliorate that negative effect of the trauma. So culturally, yes, but genetically, no. And it is fixable.
What you just said, though, yes, it can be diluted within the 3rd or 4th and different things like that, but the only thing is it can still be easily triggered. It could still be triggered. I can say easy trigger, it can still be triggered depending on the environment and different things like that.
It's
like
not there to be triggered.
The more it goes, like for an example, the dudes bring up CRT in the chat, right? But when you think about the civil rights, because some people like only bring up slavery, like not realizing that if you're in between the age of 60 and up, you experienced some type of crazy stuff that was going on in America and different things like that, or they
Like what, for example?
civil rights, the whole civil rights area.
So you march.
I was about
for
to
civil rights.
say their parents. I was about to say
That has nothing to do with your genes. That's your personal experience.
Yeah, so like I said, remember I was saying with the trauma and everything else like that, and you said it'd be diluted after a while. From what we're talking about, it's only been one generation or two generations or whatever from it. So different things as can fear or any type of like pushback or fight or fight to different things like that, it's still within the system of certain people.
No, that is not accurate. So give me an example from the civil rights generation, which I have to tell you is something I'm not unfamiliar with.
I'm pretty sure we come from the same background, sir. Yeah. So, but the thing is,
you're a New Yorker?
No, we come from the same background. You're coming from a Holocaust survivor. I come from service survivors. We have the same type of background, different things like that. Georgia black people walking side to side next to each other with Martin Luther King and everything else like that.
I've never thought differently. I agree.
Thank you. But what I'm saying is that if your parents or grandparents was walking in fear on different things like that from the KKK or even a white person, whatever the case may be like, or even marching and getting sprayed water downs or going to school in fear of different things like that. Certain types of fears, like I said, remember I said fight or flight. You know, you might not be scared of a white person, but the fight or flight might be still in you, genetically passed down if you're in an environment where you have to be in a flight or fight attitude.
Everybody has fight or flight. That's universal.
Yeah, but depending on your genetics and who you are, you might be a person that might just sit there. And then your mom might be might be a woman, or your dad might be a dude that's been the type they don't like confrontation. They're not like that, and you might be like that. You might pass it on to you and different things, but your parents might have been a person who liked to fight when something comes to them. Now you picked up that trait if you're in that environment that you're quick to fight because of what was happened beforehand. That's what I mean by that.
Okay, so if you want to know whether we are composed based on nature or nurture, that's the usual debate. Do you know what I mean by nature or nurture? Whether it's cultural, whether it's cultural or genetic is another way. So we can pass on cultural traits, and definitely I think there are genetic components to our personalities, but trauma doesn't affect them. In other words, trauma won't change you.
Yeah, the trauma won't, but you're, like you said, fear, and when I say trauma, sometimes that can conclude, or not conclude, I'm using the wrong word, but with trauma sometimes you can either have fear or pick up any other traits or attitudes from it. Or personality traits from it.
If one's mother is afraid a lot and the kid is around that, the kid will pick up on that. That's learned behavior. It's not genetic. Now, if the mother is great at playing the violin and then teaches the kid to play the violin from the age of 3 or the cello, because I've seen that, there's certainly a genetic component to talent, and there's also a learning component to talent. So hopefully they come together. And by the way, scientists don't know what part of the personality is learned and what part of the personality is influenced by genes.
Yeah, they still learn it, but they have some like I said, like Miss Madison. I can't repeat everything she said, but she made it clear about what I meant by that also.
Yeah, she made a great contribution. It's true.
No, what about fear of loud noises? Is that inherent to
That's a normal human response because it vibrates the membrane in your ear and it hurts. It's startling. That's a startle response.
No, are you scared of it?
Or what? What?
I'm talking about fear. Like, for example, fear of falling, fear of loud noises. Are those inherently passed through genes?
They're not passed through genes. They're inherent in human makeup.
So
by the way, they can be conditioned out of you. But if God forbid your parent fell out of a window, that won't affect you genetically. So you might be afraid of heights because you learned that because something happened to your parent, but it's not going to affect anybody's genes.
Doesn't affect gene, but my question is that what is the mechanism for this fear to pass through generations?
Culture.
Yeah, and evolution.
No. I'm talking about, like, imagine a baby is born and, like, everybody around that baby is not afraid of height, but that baby will be afraid of height. It has to learn not to be afraid of height.
It has to learn to be afraid of heights, that's right.
No, it has to be learn not to be afraid of the height. So by default, it is afraid of the height.
Yeah, I don't know if fear of heights is inherent. I don't think it is. Most of the things you're discussing are culturally transmitted, not genetically transmitted. A really good example was, I remember, you learn a lot about this stuff when you're raising kids, especially about things like gender differences and so forth. So I remember I had my kid in the pool, and he just took 2 steps. He was next to me. He was tiny, and his head was underwater, right? He didn't know that he would die from that. He just was standing there underwater, not knowing what was going on, not thrashing or anything like that, no fear. And I thought instantly, because you develop like a radar for your kids, like you always know where they are and what they're doing. Again, he was like a foot away from me, and I just scooped him up under the arms. And he wasn't crying or anything like that. He was just standing underwater, not realizing that he would die very quickly if I hadn't scooped him up. Now, later on, people become afraid of water. But it wasn't inherent. So that was an example that I had. This is why we have to take such care of our kids. They're virtually incapable of survival when they're born. They can't feed themselves.
So my example is that my kid, I was like standing in the water on the pool, asked him jump, and he wouldn't jump. And I had to teach him that it's okay to jump. So I don't think kids, if you put them beside the water, they just jump. They're afraid of jumping.
How old was he?
Like 2-3 years old.
Well, I don't think you tell a kid who's 2 years old to jump in the water. Was he in diapers?
These kind of swimming diapers that you wear.
Swimming diapers, yeah. Okay, so somewhere along the line, he just didn't want to do it.
No, I'm saying that by default, they're afraid of jumping. Human kids by default, and that's passed through some sort of genetic, I don't say gene, but some sort of genetic structure.
I mean, again, so now we're down to the evolution. Why are we afraid of snakes, as you said? Why are people afraid of bugs? Why do they have the disgust response? Why are we afraid of things like bees? Beehives, and then we can overcome those fears, as you know, because there are people who keep bees.
Right.
There are other people who run away from them. These are all cultural things. My kid happened to love to jump in the. My kid loved to jump. I didn't teach my kid to jump in the water. By the way, he could jump in the water like for hours, for whatever reason. Jump in, get out, go around, jump in again. He just liked doing it. I don't know why. I have no explanation for it. I like to swim. I used to swim with him on my back. Maybe I just got him used to the water.
Take your kid to a diving place. See if they dive, but they will have hard time diving. Like I took my kids to these lakes that you jump from top, thrown in the lake. He wouldn't do it. I had to really convince him to do it. I had to hold him and jump with him. So later he found out it's okay. So there are certain fears which, you are right, for evolutionary reason they pass through. And if that's true, then you can extrapolate. I don't know if it's scientifically valid to extrapolate, but you can extrapolate that trauma can also be passed on. Based on if these fears can pass on, so trauma is a kind of fear that can pass on. I mean, theoretically, I don't claim there is a data. I don't think these are like moral issues to gather data around. But if other fears can pass, so trauma is a fear, why not trauma can pass through?
Well, give me an example of a trauma.
Like
getting hit on,
example,
getting hit on the head or something, or
no,
getting
like for
mugged?
example, like if you claim that, for example, blacks are generation after generation are scared of whites, that trauma can pass to black genes. So if you take a black kid, give it to white folks to raise, that kids inherently are scared of whites because of generations before. Like for many generations, those parents were scared and learned that you have to be afraid of whites. So that now past that fear of whites.
There's no evidence of that.
I know. I'm just saying that if that fear of jumping can pass through, why not this fear can pass through too?
Because jumping is a physical. So the when you're going from a known environment like air, where we're walking around all day and we're in the air, into an unknown environment like water, people are afraid of the unknown. People are afraid of falling because they lose control. People might not like the experience of falling. Some people get nauseous when they fall. Some people like roller coasters. Some people hate them. Some people like them when they're little and then hate them when they're older, like me. I don't go on them anymore.
I'm in the same field, Norm, but I'd like to ask you a question in regards to this. When it's pertaining to substance abuse, chemical dependency, alcoholism, we do see, babies born to heroin addicts where that baby suffers some sort of addiction to this. Is that passed genetically, behaviorally? I might not be asking the right question, but maybe I'm in the right type of idea.
So what the question is, okay, first of all, there are things like fetal alcohol syndrome. And we used to have something that they called crack babies when there was this crack epidemic, which I don't think is still going on. So drug use of the mother is passed on through the mother's bloodstream to the child. So a child can actually be born addicted to an addictive drug like an opiate. Smoking, if the mother smokes, that's really bad for the child too. If the mother drinks, that's not good for the child. Even a lot of mothers even give up on coffee if their doctor tells them not to, because what's in the mother's blood is in the child's blood. But I'm not sure if you were asking something else. If the parent is alcoholic, I think that affects the quality of the parenting. So it's not a genetic effect, but it is a behavioral effect. I think people who are addicted to drugs, if they're under the influence all the time, drugs or alcohol, it affects their ability to be responsible and to show up and to put the needs of the child over the demands that the drug is creating in them. Like, let's say they have to do something to get the drug. I don't know, maybe it's stealing or prostitution, or maybe they spend all their money on the drug so they can't buy the food for the kid, or maybe they just can't parent in the right way. So I think drug addiction does affect our ability to love effectively. So the children of alcoholics and drug addicts have a negative behavioral effect, which will affect their psychology. You can get over the addiction, in a few days, the physical addiction to an opioid, or a week. But the emotional effects take, I think, let's just say a very long time to heal in the individual who's addicted. And then the effects of the bad parenting on the child also have to be overcome as the child matures.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And I'm not really versed in this field at all, man, so bear with my normie questions, but there's like ideas that alcoholism is a disease and that people can be susceptible to it. It doesn't necessarily mean the child will be an alcoholic, but can people be susceptible to substance abuse addictions genetically, or is it still behaviorally? Like, is there a susceptibility in a specific type of gene?
That's one of those questions where it's nature and nurture, and scientists don't know. They don't have a scalpel to separate nature and nurture. but it can definitely be a learned behavior. Like you can find something like drug addiction passing through groups of friends. There are a number of social diseases, I guess you're going to call them. I'll give you a few examples. Bulimia is one, where if like a bunch of it would pass through young girls, I don't know, young women, like pubescent girls, there can be an epidemic of bulimia. It passed through a college dorm where older girls are suddenly throwing up their food, bulimia. That can become an addictive behavior. Or there can be a group of people who, again, maybe they're genetically or behaviorally susceptible. There can be a drug addiction epidemic at a school. I remember there was one at Wesleyan. There was a Molly problem there, and I'm still not really sure what Molly is, so you have to forgive me because I don't want to admit to being square, but I'm not clear on what Molly is, if it's ecstasy or speed or combination or something different. But in any event, somebody died from an overdose. There was a whole bunch of kids who were taking it, and it kind of destroyed a whole bunch of kids at a school. It was a social epidemic. There are social epidemics of cutting. So there are, like, a whole group of kids can, like, be cutting themselves. It's just kind of strange behavior. And again, not to wade too deeply into a controversial political subject, but this idea of being transgender, it went from, like, a tiny percentage of the population, like 3%, and it just skyrocketed in the past, say, 15 years, roughly, from something that was absolutely unknown to something that seemed to be a social epidemic in this country. And it was like happening in every school. I had people who said, well, I'm not a boy anymore, I'm a girl, or I'm non-binary, or I'm transgender, or I'm something else. And there are even kids who think of themselves as some other form of species, like not human. They're like a troll, I'm a troll, or something, or I'm a cat, or stuff like this.
These used to be regular facets of youth growing up before we had cell phones and YouTubes and opinion pieces and blogs and social medias to warp reality from our projected experiences. So because narcissism has been on the rise ever since the cultural Marxists came in and infected our society with selfish, narcissistic, disconnected, addictive behavior, because addiction is essentially a disconnection from the present moment. What are we disconnected from? The energy that's stale that would make us sick otherwise. So, if we are using to addict, we are disconnecting. Disconnecting what? From the present in our bodies, because the pain is too much to bear. So when we force sobriety, that's like causing somebody to face their monster all on their own, and then get labeled with, oh, you can't use that because if you do, you'll become addicted, and now you have a belief, and now you've planted this emotional attachment to a label that we are forced to identify as, all to justify our being. So just so that we don't address the lack of connection, the lack of love, the lack of hugs, the lack of what the nuclear family used to stand for. Thank you.
Addiction is
warmer energy in the room for allowing me to transmit that. Appreciate you.
Actually, addiction is a restructuring of the brain. I don't think it has, like, you can be addicted to
protection mechanism. It sends a person in fight or flight when startled, when we're close to death. Fight or flight comes in to give the person a boost of adrenaline to get over their hump. Except we get addicted to this new numb feeling because culture programs us to think feeling anything is being a simp or pussy. So we shun that. We
get addicted to running.
And we don't address the dark side. So then when we get triggered, the monster comes out. Everybody has these things. Thank you.
I mean, I'm talking about an abstraction. You can be addicted to running. You can be addicted to money. You can be addicted to power. You can be addicted to even God.
Because you're escaping being present, not doing. You don't know what being is. You don't know what just being and nothing and not thinking and just, oh my God, I'm here. And I'm so grateful for being alive. It's always some kind of,
Hey, Arthur, be mindful of the energy you're putting.
Correct. Thank you for checking me.
So if I can land my point, so addiction is a restructuring of the brain. People who learn fast, they are more prone to be addicted because their brain can restructure much faster than other people. So in that sense, an abstraction, you can say it's a talent, it's a genetical talent. People who can learn fast because their brain can restructure much faster are much more prone to get addicted.
They're much more prone to be in their heads, disconnected from their bodies, so therefore their heart doesn't have to feel they're disgusted. There's some mind tactics that go on that make sense of the bastardized culture riddled with unprocessed trauma passed down either culturally or epigenetically via markers, whatever have you. It's in the air. It's not just blood or cells. We are far more connected than just physically and materially. It's psychologically, it's spiritually, it's energetically, bioenergetically. We have bio things and stuff. Yes, trauma is passed down, but that's because it's encoded, embedded in our vocabulary, our behavior, our emotional reaction to a baby crying. The grown adults who are supposed to be grown, instead of nurturing the child, they react and punish the child for being a child. So then the child's robbed of a childhood that is supposed to be nurturing and innocent and caring and able to be explored, but ordered and pushed to be quiet and then influenced by the ignorance that are their parents. So yes, whether it's blood or whatever, what have you, we're far more connected. As soon as we can clean our room first, we can then get to clarity first. We can't see through our stained windows because we're viewing through tainted. We gotta get out of your fishbowl. Listen to someone from another perspective and seriously reflect our own being before we even dare judge somebody else. Thank you. I'll be quiet.
I will judge.
And I'll still love you.
I mean, I still fuck with AA, and just as, I mean, all the principles in there, I mean, actually, if you live by those, you don't have to believe in any religion or be a Christian. They're just like good fucking rules to live by, I guess. I try my best. Anyone that's been to AA, I guess I kind of came in here late to this addiction thing, and yeah, I've been a part of that community for a while.
Yeah, AA was actually formed by Christians, though, so a lot of those principles in AA are based on Christianity. You're familiar with that?
Like I said, Joe. Yes.
Yeah, I think believing that there's something bigger than yourself is a good first step of solving pretty much any problem that you.
Right, the higher power thing, exactly.
Yeah, taking ourselves out of the me first main character perception and exploring other perspectives from other angles or angels to reveal dimensions or demons that we might need to process.
But back to the yeah, I mean, they were developed by Christians. But I mean, the 10 steps or the 12 steps. I mean, there's no like don't cheat on your wife, all this stuff. It's all like a lot of, you know, just like own up to your shit and you know, make amends and believe in a higher power. And it doesn't mean like have to be Jesus Christ or whatever you believe in. But they're just like good steps, I think. I do reflect upon those, when I can.
Yeah, what if they're just carefully designed healthier codes for you to implement into your Mac, into your operating system, to rid you of the bugs that tend to steer you into the ditch? So maybe it's all just frequency. Maybe it's all, there's a science behind it. And the masters that came before the ones who wrote the books, what if they knew things and they didn't have a way to communicate it because we didn't have the vernacular or the technology pieces or inventions of the mind to. So they invented stories like allegories and Bibles and stuff to metaphysically paint you a picture for you to figure it out yourself. That
I think step 8 and 9 were the hardest.
Which, are you talking about the
12 steps? Is that what we were just talking about, Jay?
I mean, I know my hardest part was like reaching out to people that I had harmed or.
That's step 9. That's step 9. That's what I said.
And some people are like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Some people will be, "Thank you, that's cool. Like, I'm glad you reached out."
Yeah.
And some people forgot about it.
That's step 9. That's what I'm saying. Step 8 and step 9. Step 8 is making the list, and step 9 is going around and making amends. But you don't have to make amends if doing so is going to be a danger to you. Like let's say if you've wronged somebody and confronting them is going to put you in a weird spot. You don't have to do that. But the idea is to just become self-aware of how the things that you do in your life might impact people that are around you, and if they might not see it as a problem, but you might have, and the part is just being accountable to yourself. That's the big.
Yeah, and the first step, is just admitting that you have an issue, or I think that's the most important one. But when you get down there with your sponsor and other people, you're right. I mean, you reach out to some folks and they have no idea what you're talking about, but it might be something you've been dwelling on forever. And then you want to be careful with other folks, right? Like, oh, they have forgotten about this stuff, and then if it's a rehash, it's like an old memory. Yeah, but you don't have to listen. If you're actually working this step and you've got a mentor, they will. If you have a difficult situation like that, you can do an honest inventory of hey, is this something that I have to do? And not all people do you have to go make amends to. For example, if let's say you were in a drunk driving accident and you killed somebody's kid. Going and knocking on their door and saying, "Hey, I really need to get this off my chest," that's probably not a good idea. Right. Of course. So, of course. Is it a good idea? Because it could be unsafe, because some people's reaction justifiably could be to exact a little bit of revenge. Yeah. So when is it safe? When is it safe? Yeah, I think it's like when you're thinking about the grief that you may have put your parents or your wife or your kids through because of your addiction, and to just be able to deal with it, but you got to remember, it's not just about you're not trying to heal them, you're trying to heal yourself. And the reason that you want to be vulnerable in some of these situations is it gives them an opportunity to, that might be the only opportunity that somebody, gets to be able to tell you how your behavior may have impacted them, and then it allows them the opportunity to get it off their chest. But oftentimes what happens, from my experience, is that
just the mere fact that you're willing to deal with your own shit, people are just like, hey, let bygones be.
It improves the relationship.
I really like Maddie just in the time, like, you're right. Like, they're like, wow, I'm glad that we can discuss this. And actually, like, we can strengthen bonds and renew friendships.
Don't blow my engine.
And things like that. So, yeah.
Why are you going back?
Do I wish to surrender?
It's also risking a person rehashing their own wounds that they haven't dealt with. So being responsible for sending someone down a tunnel, they believed that it was gone, the pain was done, I'm not affected anymore, their ego has believed that, and then here you are, holy shit. I didn't ask for this.
I realize those are the extremes. I mean, most people have only killed someone in a drug run. I mean, that's a whole different situation. They're just the things that I believe that, like, a lot of people are just, I'll speak for myself, that they just kind of dwell on. They're like, man, I really was an idiot. I was really mean. I was cruel.
I mean, the most common one would be, you've got an alcoholic that, that was married and has kids, and, they're in their cups and doing their thing on a nightly basis and not really taking care of, the commitments that they've made, and they leave people alone, right? And like, now, and where it gets really bad is if the person's a functional alcoholic, where then there's this codependency where, like, oh, he is an alcoholic and he's not present, but he's also gone 40 hours a week plus working, and so then they're never around, and they're just kind of absent. And so I think step 9, it's the hardest one for sure, but I think it's also the one that if people skip it, I would say those that skip step 9 are probably the most prone to.
All the other ones
The chances of you seeing
I feel like number 5 is tough. But the making the list too, when you're responsible.
Yeah, that's number 8. That one's hard too, because the thing is like, if you're talking to a sponsor and you're trying to be honest, that's the point where people might like omit some things, and like just like, because some of it might be too difficult, you're just like, yeah, that's not going to make the list. So like sometimes 8 doesn't get dealt with as honestly as it.
For those of us not in the race, could you give us just the titles of the 8 and the 9? It's just might be related to it.
Yeah, so 8 is just to make. Yeah, 8 is just to make a list of the people that you've wronged and you need to make amends with, and then 9 is going out.
Oh, okay. Is it okay if I share a little wisdom about them?
Yeah, please do.
It's brought to my attention my stuff, and I've never done recovery or addiction stuff. I just work with shamans and whatever. I noticed that the effect was, because some people like couldn't get access, because if I showed my face, I did my own baptism. Going down with people that I have feelings about. I just wanted to share that what worked for me and only me. So this can work for me. Was, writing it down on paper as if just imagining that I'm talking to them or looking at their picture and just forgiving myself, writing down what I wrote, did a little prayer meditation, tossed it in the fire, like a full moon and things. So there are alternative ways that this can be handled outside of religion, such as 12-step program. So that's all I wanted to share. All the different powerful. If they're not, because you're talking to their subconscious, you're talking to their higher self, so they might pick up that frequency of consciousness. And essentially, you're still doing your thing, you're still correcting your path without interfering them in the material. That makes sense.
I don't know which is right or wrong, but one is public and the other is private.
Correct, but sometimes things that can be not ready to be healed can still be like you can still send it out, and over time check back in like, oh, does it feel okay? Can I go with my gut? Connect with that other soul, see if it's healthy.
Well, hold on, Arthur. Number 9, you have to apply discretion to it, like in discernment. You look at this list and you have to ask yourself some of these questions, of what could the potential impact be. And while it is about your healing and to be able to do it, there are circumstances where legitimate reasons could cause you to just say, yeah, it's probably better to not open.
I concur. Thank you. And I think our guts tell us, our body, if you listen to the intuitive hits, just think of a person. Ask yourself, how are you feeling? Communicate. Check. You could say something in the present. Leave space for it to take effect in the future.
Arthur, do you go to the gym?
A mind gym, yes.
Got it. So, do you feel like addiction is kind of the byproduct of the mind's inherent nature to learn and absorb through repetition?
Could you say that one more time?
Do you feel like the repetitive nature of addiction actually could be counterbalanced by replacing it with something more healthy, like working out? That's basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah, working out is the new drugs. Yeah. I used to I binge and sit on the trees and read all day and escape into reels that also get challenging for us and all this stuff. So I escape into mind modism, but I'm addicted to thinking. So that's my drug. And that replaced all my other shit, which is consumerism, drinking, partying, and being in my church. So I align, yeah. We become addicted to thinking, and that's how we lose our material stuff. You'll see me say that really like a dog because I lost interest in the physical and gained so much from the immaterial that I'm in bliss and I don't need anything more than enough to get by. And that old behavior of needing and operating out of lack and being in scarcity mode and needing to transact with the physical world to afford my lifestyle, feed my addictions, pay for things, and that whole machine is no longer, it's still there, I can fire that up anytime. It's no longer needing, but that's like dependent on to fulfill my version of what I think of my identity is causing me to do, to fulfill that big ass ego that I have, that I still have. It's just no longer driving a big ass out through the city. It's no longer in the driver's seat. It's the passenger seat. It still has a say. It's still in the cab. I still listen. It just doesn't direct. And there's no destination. I go over and I'm not dependent on any kind of substance except cannabis, because cannabis is simply unlimited. So practicing.
I was going to ask you, like how many joints did you smoke before you do the Mr. Miyagi on top of the hill?
Yeah, you're right. This is far out stuff. Comedy comes when we don't understand or something, and we ridicule. Yeah, I get it. This is.
No, I was joking. Like I wasn't trying to ridicule you.
I know, I'm joking as well. So, just. Yeah, well, I'm a nerd, so I study the how, the metaphysics, geometry of reality. Reality is essentially music, all that stuff, universe, one song, it's a verse, you need one. So we're all one, kumbaya, Brahman and Atman, Maya, illusion, all that, duality.
Arthur, you just inspired me to roll a blunt.
Please do. You can meet me up there.
Yeah.
No, I can ground it.
I'll be passed out up there, but I'll.
I can ground it. I just never done it in front of a room of how many people are in here with all this energy. I could attempt to ground it if you'd like, if anybody's interested in seeing
We're a little steel grounder. Man,
no, it's just my
weed. Nobody gives a fuck about weed, dude. I'm talking about we're talking about. Maybe that was your thing. I don't know, man. That's
we
cool.
jokes are to referring that my ideas are high as fuck, and they are.
But Arthur, also, with your nerdy like intelligence, have you gotta check out a show, man. I think this is a good fit for you. It's called Pharmacopoeia. It was on the Vice channel for a while.
I don't do Vice Energy anymore since I have to now feel things, actually feel.
No. It was a TV show. It was called Pharmacopoeia.
Okay, give me a synopsis.
It's like a chemist guy that would go around and he would talk about the things in drugs and they would explore those different deals. It was a Vice show. You know,
Yeah,
Vice, VIC.
I've taken drugs and done trips and have experienced what lots of many other heroes before me have done. And yes, I'm aware of, I'm in that, I'm able to channel and flow. And I've done acid to expose myself to 3D. I can see things by staring in a corner of the room and just read you what I see. Like I can go for hours. Like this is just channeling knowing. I've done, like if you study, have you ever called Nietzsche? You ever read Friedrich Nietzsche, studied Nietzsche? Anybody? Famous philosopher.
Yeah, people fucking know who Nietzsche is. Like, is this interesting to you?
What I was trying to refer to is I am operating from his Ubermensch mentality. That's what this essentially is.
No, you're not. You're operating in this fucking, I'm trying to be a fucking intellectual, and it's just weird.
Sure. And if it's going to be met with that energy, then there's no point in me being here because I don't know.
Hey man, I bet if you went to the Sphere, if I took you to the Sphere in Vegas, remember he left. That guy's head would blanket explode.
I didn't kick him, no. Fuck,
I'm kidding, Roger, I'm kidding.
He's probably fucking hanging out in a fucking park, fucking doing fucking Tai Chi right now. Like, it's such a weird vibe.
Tai Chi, come on.
You don't do Tai Chi, bro.
I do combat Tai Chi.
With what, your G.I. Joe man? Come on, you don't fucking do no Tai Chi.
Yeah, tip for balance and stuff, yes. Like, it's not in the park.
Gringo, you were so
except for on weekends. Maybe I used to, okay, Roger?
You're full of shit. Hakima, you're into weird shit. What were you thinking about this shaman vibe?
I know. But I know what I can do Tai Chi though, man. I mean, I can.
He was weird a long time ago. See him?
Yeah, I can hear you.
He was weird a long time ago. But for the record, I do Tai Chi.
You do Tai Chi too? In a park?
Yeah. My father was a master at Tai Chi.
Yeah, only on the weekends. I'm
going to tell you something right now. If I were in a park in a big city and I thought I was being followed, I think I would just stop and start doing Tai Chi because ain't nobody going to fuck with somebody after crazy enough to do Tai Chi in the park.
But like you go to the class and then it would be like go to the park on Saturday mornings and you would join like a group and like do a group Tai Chi practice outside of the dojo thing.
Hey, Rod, hey, PTI, look at my picture, PTI, Rod. That's my dad. On this, he was actually doing a film, and that's a still shot.
Your dad is Lou Gossett Jr.?
Yeah, he don't look nothing like Lou Gossett.
Rakima, you got a white mama?
Definitely don't got no white mama.
Yeah,
no, I'm messing with you, Rakima.
Hey, Akima, what happened with your cousins when you invited them in earlier? You were like, you invited some interesting folks over.
I wasn't friends with none of them. I sat them record. I don't know this. I didn't know none of them.
Who do you think was hanging and banging the best?
I don't know. It was a mix. You was losing. You was deflecting a lot.
Oh, hold up. What did I lose? I simply asked questions like, I asked the man that said he was an expert in the Federal Reserve some questions about who ran the reserve, and he didn't know.
You don't answer questions, though. You just ask a lot of questions. You won't answer shit like if somebody asks you a question, you gonna change it. You're not gonna acknowledge the answer. You're gonna move
Ask
on.
me a question. Let's go. Ask me 10 questions that are on your mind.
I'm actually one. You say that whole CEO is 50, 30 some percent is over 6 feet or whatever. But how many of them is white? That's gonna go to like 80%, 90%, something like that. So it's not short. So white privilege is first. So like short and all that might come second, but white privilege is gonna come first.
Yeah, but
you can answer the question though. Like,
no.
It's not really a question.
I appreciate the question, and I'll go look up the answer. I don't have it at the tip of my tongue. What I do have at the tip of my tongue is the height one, because that one, is always interesting to me that nobody brings up. Where 58% of the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies are 6 foot taller, and only 14.5% of the U.S. population is 6 foot taller. And then when you get to 6'2" and taller, it's only 30%, but only 3.9% of the population is 6'2" or above. And it's just interesting to me that when you mention that, nobody seems to care. There's a disparity there. There's certainly a privilege between of tall people versus short people. And I'm not the one that ignores the fact that there is privilege. In fact, I started that entire conversation by acknowledging that I believe privilege does exist. I even acknowledge that I believe that white privilege exists. The caveat that I throw out there, though, is that I don't think privilege is a bad thing.
This for the record, 90% of the CEOs are white. 1.6% are black.
I think there's 3 black CEOs for the Fortune 500. I think.
Yeah, so white privilege comes first before the whole short and tall.
Okay.
And white people are severely overrepresented in CEOs.
Got it. But would you agree that tall people are also overrepresented?
That may be the case, but I think the prerequisite is being white, though. That's the number one.
You know the one thing we didn't get into that I was kind of hoping to, but people just weren't ready for it, was when that guy in the video that was talking about how why are all the serial killers white? I went to the serial killer database and I posted some stats, and I even told myself, you know what? No, just wait, because I don't think you would like to know what the statistics are from 2000 forward when it comes to serial killers in the U.S.
That's because they changed the definition. Same thing like mass shooters. You know what I'm saying? What we grew up knowing what a serial killer is, that's not. They broadened the definition to include a lot of other things. So you can change the definition all you want to and make change.
But do you think it would surprise people to know that if there's 14% black?
Let me take the phone call real quick. I'm sorry.
Sure. Adams, would it surprise you to know that despite only 14% of the U.S. being black, more than 50% of the serial killers in the U.S. in the last 25 years have been black?
That's interesting.
It wasn't like that previously. It's something's changed. It's interesting. Hakima brought up an interesting point, and I'll have to. I won't dismiss it at face value. He said that the definition changed. I'll go double check and see what definition they're using prior to 2000 and currently. But I thought that was very interesting.
This is where I'd want to ask Norm if it was genetic or behavioral that asked that.
I just think it's interesting because if you were to ask me prior to me looking it up on the database, if you would have said, "Hey, what's the the highest percentage of serial killers?" I would have definitely said Whitey was the serial killer for sure. But it's interesting to learn that that's not true.
It's Mexicans, man. I mean, they do it all at once.
No, the Mexicans were actually quite low on the list. In fact, underrepresented for their population.
I mean, the white guys only get 4 or 6, But remember that Ramirez guy that would go on the trains? He'd get
Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. The interesting thing about him is the citizens caught him. They beat him up. That's like the ultimate dream, right? People sit there and go, "Oh, if I caught this guy, blah blah blah." It finally happened with the Night Stalkers.
Hey, Roger, let me ask you a question. When are they going to demolish the Cecil Hotel?
Why would you?
I mean, you don't think that it's cursed?
Nah. Are you talking about where that woman like disappeared and they found her in that tank?
And where Richard Ramirez lived, and where Black Dahlia actually lived as well.
So here's what I would say. I don't think they should close it down, but I wouldn't stay there.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I've walked past it, and to be very honest with you, Roger, anytime I used to live downtown 2 different times in my whole life, and anytime I used to walk past the Cecil Hotel, I used to cross the street. I didn't even want to be in front of it.
Was there fat girls out there?
I mean, I'm sure
they're all heroin. They ain't no fat girls.
I got a question for Anthony, who just got back. Anthony, we're doing a little trivia here about serial killers. Do you know which demographic kills since 2000 that commits more produces more serial killers, and not per capita, but just the percentage of the U.S. serial killers? Would it be white, Hispanic, Asian, black? Who commits them?
My guess is going to be white women.
Incorrect, but white. So it's all men, by the way. The one truth we can't escape is that men are more violent than women. But here's something that's very interesting. Since 2000, more than 50% of the serial killers in the U.S. have been black.
Since 2000.
Yeah, for the last 25 years, consistently. Wow. In fact, there hasn't been a year that's gone by that wasn't true since 2000.
Right, where's the stat at? Where can I look this stat?
I posted it in the chat earlier. I'll go find it again. It's from a site called Serial Killer Database or some shit. Hold on, let me go get it, and I'll pin it up to.
So if you're a serial killer, I mean, you have to get you got to get 3, you got to get 4 before you get it.
That's an interesting question. Let me ask Google real quick.
You know what's interesting? I feel like women are very much so underrepresented in the murder statistics. And I feel like as our boomer population and the generation behind it, starts to...
3 or more people, significant amount of time. I'm sorry.
Can y'all hear me? I feel like as that population ages and, people start acquiring properties and start redeveloping, I think that we're really going to get an insight as to how much women actually killed in, the previous generations. I would say about 2 behind us.
The first serial killer in America was a woman. And she got away without serving time.
You see what I mean? Like, women kill, they just kill in different ways. You see what I'm saying? Putting things in food, denying access to certain type of life-saving, things. I mean, it's just different.
Go to the link that I just posted. There's so much really good information in there that is shocking to me. Because when you guys were talking, somebody brought up serial killers on that video, and that we played like 4 or 5 times, which was crazy. But when we played that video, I listened to all of that, and I was like, wait, man, is any of this stuff true? And I started going from the top to the bottom, and when I got to the serial killer thing, I was like, wow, I would not have expected it. I almost didn't even look up the serial killer part because I thought, why? Like, I know the answer to that. Of course it's Whitey that's the serial killer. But and that was true. Whitey was definitely the serial killer up until 2000. And then
Anthony's answer was actually pretty clever, because there was a recent study done that 70 to 80% of the audience for true crime shows dealing with serial murder and stuff like that are women viewers. So why are women more drawn to watching fictional stories about serial murders.
That's a great, Joe. I wanted that stat too. Isn't that crazy? It's college educated, like white women are. I mean, they basically like support the whole podcast industry.
Yeah, and they're not even the ones that are the drivers of serial murder, according to statistics.
Joe, did you not hear what I said before? Okay, I feel like women are underrepresented in the way that women have the tendency to kill, and the current statistics that are out there. I feel like a lot of women get away with murder, literally, especially women that are in caregiving roles and women that. I just like something like it's one of those things. You know what I mean? Even shaken baby syndrome, for example. Like people thought that sudden infant death was something that was completely different. Like a lot of women were getting away with basically suffocating babies.
I mean, you go back in history.
I'm sorry.
Isn't that crazy?
This shit is wild. There's so much information here. This shit is fucking wild.
Yeah.
The shit you could fucking learn on Clubhouse, man. Yo, I gotta dig into these numbers. This is crazy. Yo, you guys need to look at it decade by decade.
Anthony, Anthony, you know what's gonna be fucking amazing? The next time you're in a room and somebody says something crazy like, white people make up all the serial killers, and then you're gonna be like, hold up. I can't wait till you present this information.
No, you're like,
I'm gonna get swatted if I present this information. Yo, right now, they have a GoFundMe to try to ruin my life, Raj. This shit is crazy. Yo, I'm fucking trending on Clubhouse. This shit is unbelievable.
Have you guys ever heard of Munchausen?
The worst
Proxy. Yeah.
There's two different ones. There's Munchausen. There's Munchausen, where the individual, focuses on themselves and victimizes themselves. Okay, and then there's Munchausen by proxy, where for example, what is it? Who is that girl?
I was gonna say.
No. There's oh my God, what was her name? Blanchard. Oh my God, what was her name? God, I can't even. The girl who killed her mother with her boyfriend, and then she ended up going to jail and then getting out later. Gypsy Rose. There you go. So Gypsy Rose, her mother had Munchausen by proxy. You see what I'm saying? She was voluntarily making her daughter sick in efforts to gain attention and to, basically benefit herself. You know what I mean? So Munchausen would be somebody who's basically making themselves sick. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's taking arsenic or some sort of chemical to make it look like they have cancer, or some sort of mysterious disease. Like it's a very much so real problem. Like I don't think that people really understand how dangerous those people are. That's why I'm very, very, very careful when I see campaigns about people being sick on social media and just with the TikTok videos and all the crap that comes behind it. A lot of those people have Munchausen.
Like Lyme disease?
No, they're not
fibromyalgia.
They want this sympathy.
Fibromyalgia is something a doctor fucking tells somebody that keeps coming and saying, I have pain, and then they keep running tests and they can't find it.
See what I mean, Roger? That's why I said it. Fibromyalgia.
There is a breast.
Google Lyme disease, man. All these celebrities get it. They're like, I gotta chill. And I've been bad for it's like fibromyalgia.
Dude, that conversation earlier was giving me fibromyalgia pain. Dude, that fucking, who the fuck was it? Fucking Jaguar and Tony and Thug. That was one of the more painful rooms.
Usually your rooms just give me gas pain.
When Doug didn't know. chairman of the Fed was, you know, like that was, and he didn't know the name of the book that he taught from. I was like, yo, man, you can't make this shit up. Yo, Raj, I was like, you know, this is not even fair, man. And then the suggestion that you actually debate with that chick Chaya or whatever her name is, yo, it made literally no sense.
I can't imagine what topic she could pull out that I would have to say, okay, I mean, maybe if it was like, you know, who knows, like Tyler Perry movie trivia better. Maybe she'll beat me at that. But I don't think there's anything. She's a dum dum.
I mean, you know, anytime, you know, Thug Sissy is in the room, it's always just this sparring match between, you know, him and Jewish people. Like, it's very exhausting to listen to. The man doesn't make any sense. It's all about conspiracy, and he's just completely misinformed about a lot of the topics that he talks about. And I'm actually really surprised he went to Columbia. That to me is very mind-blowing.
You know what's funny, though, is, like, you don't even have to debate people anymore. You simply just let them bring up a fucking topic, let them fucking talk, and then ask them one or two questions about the topic that they brought up, and they fucking hang themselves. I mean, CO did it the other night when he was like, oh, hey, let's talk about that immigration bill. And then I go, let's talk about it. I go, you read it? And he was like, no. And then I was like, do you know what the limits were to be for encounters at the border? No, he didn't know any of it. So, like, why would somebody bring up a bill that they've never read and don't know the material facts of? Like, it's just crazy. I don't know. I almost think that debating people is like, I think they have to earn the right to debate it. Maybe if they bring up a topic and we ask them 3 questions about the topic that they claim to be an expert on, if they can answer them at all, even semi-correct, then maybe we go into a debate. But I think that should be the gatekeeping of whether we even open it up for it.
Well, that Alaska woman, when she was trying to say she's such a friend of the Jews and she went to Tel Aviv to work in the Holocaust, you asked her one question, have you ever said from the river to the sea? She answered yes, automatically. She went right over her head. Yeah, sure, all the time. Unbelievable.
Yeah, these people are they do not bring their best and brightest. That's fucking crazy.
Okay. I'm glad that you said best and brightest. If anyone has read that novel or that book, The Best and Brightest, it was about it's about Kennedy's like war cabinet, and they were the best and brightest, but they actually like fucked up the Vietnam War, and it was like an ironic term to use.
Well, you know, I personally
the best and brightest are in the fucking colleges and shit, the universities, man, we're indoctrinated. I agree with that. That was that McNamara, who was that guy? He used some formula where he was damn sure, you know, I mean, in math and all this shit, to where we just cannot lose. There's no way, you know, and yeah, I mean, air power was not enough. We didn't have enough soldiers. I mean, yeah, we fucked that war up. But, you know, we shouldn't have done it in the first place. But, yeah, I'm not.
Million troops. And the estimated crippling casualty, the actual casualties were around 50,000. Crippling casualties that still left you alive were about double that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would say, I mean, have you ever met a Vietnam veteran? Like, a lot of them motherfuckers do not like the government. Like,
yes, my grandfather was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I've met a lot of them, and rightfully so, because they were not fooled by what was going on when they were older. They knew it wasn't to set these people free.
After giving their all, they came home and they weren't heroes. I mean, people were spitting.
Yeah.
So that was pretty sad too.
Oh yeah, I would think that was probably maybe the beginning of the generation that kind of realized, like, holy fuck, like, these guys do not have our best interests here. This ain't no World War II, no 50s America, man. This is some serious shit here, you know. And yeah.
So why was the Vietnam War gotten into in the first place if it was a foolhardy invention?